Thank you for joining me. The International Monetary Fund made another quite interesting revelation recently, and I would like to share it with you. You may remember that about a week ago, the head of the IMF, Kristalina Georgieva, said that the United States is on an unsustainable fiscal path due to its surging national debt. Well, that's not news in and of itself. It was about time for the IMF to acknowledge it. Well, several days ago, Gina Gopinath, who is IMF First Deputy Managing Director, warned that global trade has started to fragment and it will have an immense negative impact on global economies, including the United States and Europe, of course.
Call Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, all praise and glory and honor to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua Ba'Shem Rakaha Kwadash. I want to give double honors to my apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Now listen, man. Listen carefully. All right? Global fragmentation. The IMF is warning of a global fragmentation that's going to affect the United States and Europe. Why? Because of the national debt. You understand? The national debt. 260 trillion. All right. They tell the world that it's 34 trillion, but it's 260 trillion. Stagflation, inflation, no economic growth, rise of unemployment rises, unemployment rates. All right. Food prices, gas prices, everything goes up. The debt is over and over, printing money, printing money, printing money, putting the debt more holes into it. Now the IMF, which is the International Monetary Fund, right? It's the global trade routine. Well, guess what? Now they're saying it's going to be a global fragmentation. And I'm going to get that definition to show you this is all biblical through the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. This place is done. We're eating. We're having fun. That's why Yahweh Shem Yahushua has given us what we need. But these people out here that taking for granted Yahweh Shem Yahushua, that are out here being wicked and eating, and all they worrying about is drinking and eating and banqueting, marrying and having these parties and bouquets and all of this, just lusting and eating good and dainties and, you know, just fulfilling the flesh, man. Well, guess what? Yahweh Shem Yahushua got something, and it's all scriptural. Now let's listen.
Specifically, the IMF pointed out that widening geopolitical divides are now disrupting trade flows globally, which is something that we've been discussing here for month and month, but it is nice to hear it from the IMF and similar entities finally. And of course, this global trade flow disruption culminated with Yemen blocking the Red Sea as a way to demand ceasefire in Gaza. The IMF says global disruptions of trade facilitate the division of economies into competing blocs. Gopinath said that this is actually something that the world has not experienced since the end of the Cold War. Gopinath said,
do you see what she said? No one has ever experienced this since the Cold War. Foreign and direct investment flows are also being redirected along geopolitical lines. Some countries are re-evaluating their heavy reliance on the dollar in their international transaction and reserve holdings. Listen to this.
Foreign direct investment flows are also being redirected along geopolitical lines. Some countries are reevaluating their heavy reliance on the dollar.
They're reevaluating their reliance on the dollar. All this is biblical prophecy. And we've said this over and over. They're not going to deal with the dollar. This is the revised Roman Empire, and it's falling. The dollar is going to be evacuated. It's going to be abandoned from the countries. The worlds are not going to want to trade with the dollar. It's already happening. The BRICS is being built. You have countries around the world that don't want to deal with the dollar. Everybody knows that the dollar has no value and is losing its purchase power. When the dollar loses its purchase power, it can no longer import and export. It can no longer deal with the global transaction when it comes to the goods and products. So what happens then? What happens when that happens? Well, you're going to have an uncertainty of what we're going to receive here. All the goods, everything we need, all right? That's going to be import, export, food products, etc., man. You know? Global fragmentation. Global trade fragmentation in the form of an increase in trade barriers and higher trade policy uncertainty, meaning they're not 100% certain. All right? Global trade fragmentation. That means there's going to be issues within these countries trading back and forth. And the IMF, International Monetary Fund, guess what? Now they're warning about USA and Europe being what? Affected by this. Affected by this because of the national debt. All right? Hey, we got to keep bringing these scriptures out. And it's crazy because we're actually living in a time where Babylon is going to be, the Lord is doing something with Babylon the Great, brothers, you know? And, we got to stay strong in this thing because when the Lord brings it, Deuteronomy 12:3, in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble and the strong men shall bow themselves and the grinder cease because they are few. And those that look out the windows be darkened, and the doors shall be shut in the streets where the sound of the grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and the daughters of music shall be brought low. Also when they shall be afraid of that which is high, and fears shall be in the way, and the almond tree shall flourish, and the grasshopper shall be a burden. All right? And the desire shall fail because men go to his long home, and the mourner shall go about the streets. Now let's get a book of Habakkuk. Just thought about a scripture. Let's go to hook back Habakkuk 3:17. Although the fig tree shall not blossom, neither shall fruit be in the vines. The labor of the olive shall fail, and the field shall yield no meat. The flock shall be cut off from the fold, and there shall be no herd in the stalls, man. The Lord is going to cut off the trade. The Lord's going to cut off the food supply. The Lord is going to cut off all of that. You know, this is what's coming. And it starts with the dollar collapse. That's what's going on. And this is why we're going to go into that time where, all of this is going to affect Babylon the Great. The Lord is bringing this place low. And well, guess what? That's the time we're living in. This is what we're going to come into. 6, all right, verse 22. And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown. The full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty, man. And the trumpet shall give a sound which when every man heareth, they shall be suddenly afraid, man. All right, this is what's coming to Babylon the Great, man. This is what's coming to Babylon. We're reading these scriptures over and over because it's the time we're living in. I'm going to go right to the point, man. I'm going to go right to this point right here. 2 Ezra 15:19. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. This is what's coming, brothers. This is the dollar collapse, man. Global fragmentation. The IMF is speaking about this. The WEF is speaking about everything.
In their international transactions and reserve holdings. Of course, we have been discussing de-dollarization for a while now, but what we are seeing now is its acceleration. It's no longer some type of a conspiracy theory. It's not propaganda.
No, this is happening. This is happening because Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai said it, man. All right? Let's go to Isaiah Let's go to Isaiah. Salakia, bear with me. Isaiah. Let's go to Isaiah 55. Is that 55? 55. And I'm going to go right to the point. 11. I have to start at 10. For as the rain cometh down and the snow from heaven, and returneth not thither, but watereth the earth, and make it bring forth and bud, that it may give seed to the sower and bread to the eater, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it, man. Everything the Lord promised through the Spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahweh, through these prophecies, are going to be fulfilled. No one can disambiguate it. The scripture said no one. Sirach 39 and 16. All the works of the Lord are exceeding good, and whatsoever he commandeth shall be accomplished in due season. In due season. Why? Because the Lord said it. Due season. All right? The Lord said, Revelation 20 and 3, and cast them into the bottomless pit, you devils, and shut them up and seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. Right? And that's when the Renaissance period came about, after, Jake was ruling, over Esau during the Dark Ages. But it says this, and after that, after the 1,000 years, after the Renaissance, that's the period where he rose up, broke out of those chains, right? Out of the bottomless pit. And after that, he must be loose a little season. And this is the season we're in. We're the season of Esau, where he is falling. All right?
As it may have been perceived even a year ago by the mainstream media, it's now out in the open, and even the IMF had to finally acknowledge this. One of the key aspects of this is the trade conflict between the United States and China. The current administration, by the way, is planning to increase tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles in order to make them less competitive and therefore lower demand. Bloomberg even reported that the new tariffs will target not only EVs but also other strategic industries in China. Earlier this month, the U.S. Department of Commerce added 26 Chinese firms to its blacklist, by the way. So the trade war is going on. It has become crystal clear that Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen's trip to China, as well as Blinken's trip to China, were far from successful. The entire world sort of just dismissed them, dismissed the threats, and likely just laughed at such attempts to
Yeah, because everybody, the jig is up. Everybody knows about you devils here in America, man. You've been using your dollar as a weapon for so long. You have killed, you have bullied, you have threatened, you have abused, you have colonized, you have taken over nations and countries. You have got riches over countries. And now the nations know. Let the weak say I'm strong. You know what I'm saying? So now these same nations that didn't have that type of power at one time, well, they can see right through you devils. So you can't go around no more trying to bully your way around. Because I seen when Yellen and Blinken went over there into China, they would definitely disregard it. And they're not taking any threats no more. All right? Because, well, again, like I said, what makes a nation strong is the economy. And these nations see that the dollar is losing its value, its purchasing power, man.
Control China's industrial output. So now we're back to square one, meaning we're back to economic sanctions, which of course is something that will backfire and has already backfired. The IMF highlighted.
Of course, it backfired. When they try to sanction Russia, they try to sanction. That's what they do. You don't want to do what we tell you to do, we're going to sanction you. You don't want to do nothing, we're going to sanction you. Now it's backfiring on them.
That this global economic fragmentation is going to result in countries effectively forming blocs that are led by either the United States or China, with some countries possibly choosing to remain non-aligned. Although, in my personal opinion, remaining non-aligned will be more and more difficult as time goes by, because they will likely try to see what sides would provide better alternatives and more value to them. So eventually they will likely have to form alliances, and these alliances are unlikely to be purely economic at this point in time in our day and age. The China-leaning bloc, by the way, has been slowly shifting towards the use of the yuan. Of course, all BRICS nations fall into this category, and if you consider the fact that their combined GDP surpassed that of G7 nations, it's definitely a serious economic threat for the West. Now, the IMF did say something else that is very, very important. I was actually quite shocked to hear this from Gina Gopinath directly. She said that Western sanctions are the primary drivers why central banks increase their gold reserves, and have been doing so for almost 2 years now, as they decrease their dollar foreign exchange reserves. China has been...
See? And this is the IMF. Even the IMF. They know the problem is coming from you demons here in Babylon the Great America. The West. All the sanctions that you have done, everything that you have done, you have affected the central banks. You fucked everything up, you devils. All right? Because you're known as Esau, Edom, the devil, the greedy. Your greediness. All right? Greediness. Going back to that word, swallowed up. You know? You have swallowed up riches, and now you shall vomit them. Now it's kicking your ass. Everything is backfiring you. So the IMF is going into it. The WEF already warned about the dollar collapsing. This is what's going to bring the charagma. This is why the next move is this digital bullshit. Salak, excuse me. And then the charagma. We on our way to the charagma, brothers. It's coming. They're going to sneak it in there. That's why we got to continue to pray. Y'all trying to keep us spiritual. May the Most High have mercy on us. Let's listen a little bit more.
Building its gold reserves for the last 18 months or so, sometimes selling nearly $1 billion a month to buy gold. So there you have it, out in the open. Recently, India, a BRICS member, and Nigeria agreed to use their local currencies for bilateral trade. The trade between the two nations was roughly $12 billion in 2023. They even signed an official trade agreement to settle transactions in their local currencies. This is not surprising because Nigeria actually already submitted an application to join the BRICS bloc and may be...
Exactly. Another country wanting to join the BRICS. Everybody wants to jump on the good team because everybody knows that the BRICS are going to overpower and de-dollarize the dollar. No one wants to deal with the dollar. Another country signing up for the BRICS, man.
Submitted later this year during the summit in Russia in October. I'm sure we will see more of these types of agreements between nations.
We see the promises that go into your life's work, and they deserve nothing less than a life
in the coming months. And I think so because as economies have slowed down, using local currencies instead of the US dollar, which if you use the United States dollar, you're effectively supporting.
So now Nigeria and all these different countries that don't want to deal with the dollar, they're doing bilateral trade with their own local currency. They're not using the dollar as the IMF, International Monetary Fund, to do trade. You see what I'm saying? Everybody's ditching the dollar. This place is out of here.
Supporting U.S. economy. So using local currencies instead of the U.S. dollar will help countries make their currencies stronger and therefore contribute to their own economic growth. Why would they want to continue using only the dollar at this point in time? They now have options, they have alternatives, and it is quite clear that they're going to take advantage of these new options. And I do want to remind you that once countries ditch the dollar for trade, which we're seeing happening as we speak, the US dollar will return to the United States, which will lead to hyperinflation in America. The banking industry and finance companies are likely going to be affected the most if and when that happens, and this is because foreign exchanges will decline. The IMF even said that we could see a broad retreat from global rules of trade engagement, and with that, a significant reversal of the gains from economic integration as countries grow increasingly fragmented. With that being said, it is absolutely clear that there are massive changes on the horizon, actually around the corner, I should say. These changes were on the horizon a couple of years ago. Now they're clearly just a couple of steps away. And with that, we're seeing these statements of fact that we've known all along appear more and more often. Remember to like, subscribe, and share.
There you go, brothers. It's over, man, for Babylon the Great. Lord willing, you're edified in the spirit, trying to keep you updated as much as I can when I can. Call Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushai. All praise and glory and honor to Yahweh Shem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to my apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom.